Good morning. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and I'm here on Technique Tuesday. And I have been working on this lovely scarf. It's a free pattern that can be found on Ravelry, and it is called the Horai Scarf. And this is what the picture looks like from them. It's a totally beautiful scarf, and I chose to make mine out of Bravo alpaca. And Bravo alpaca, I've chosen a couple colors here. This is going to be our gift for this week. And I thought maybe we could choose between this aquamarine color or the sapphire color. So aquamarine or sapphire, and you guys choose. So if you haven't seen how we give away a free gift every week, the way that you enter to win your gift is you post comments in the comment section. You let us know what you're working on. And if you have a lovely pattern, don't forget to show us maybe some pictures or the name of the pattern. And we love hearing where you're from and what you're working on, because I like to use the ideas that you give me so that I can use them for future Technique Tuesdays. So this is the lovely price for this week. And for last week, we had Finito, and we had, this one is a merino yarn by Malabrigo, and it is a superwash. I believe it's a superwash, and it's hand painted. And we have Archangel or Indicida. So Archangel or Indicida. And if you haven't tried this yarn before, when it blocks out, it almost has a little bit of a halo to it. It's so gorgeous and it's so soft. This is a yarn that is not itchy at all. When you put it, you can put it right around your neck and there's no itchiness to it at all. So this was the price for last week, and I'll be introducing, letting you know who the winner was for that pretty soon here. So this week, I just finished knitting my scarf, and it is using the Horai stitch, which is a knit 3 together, yarn over knit 3 together in 3 stitches. So it kind of makes like a floral design. Do you see how that makes kind of a floral design? And it calls for the Chinese Waitress Cast On. And here's our Chinese Waitress Cast On. And I wanted to show you today how to do the Chinese Waitress Bind Off. So on my Chinese Waitress Bind Off, do you see how it's a little bit big? Well, I used a little bit smaller needle, but I should have used like a sock needle because it's still much bigger than the other side and not quite as refined. So I recommend that if you do try and make this Horai scarf and use the Chinese Waitress Cast On and the Bind Off, do you see here the difference? Make sure you use sock needles when you go to bind off, so you get your bind off as tight and as small as possible so they match each other. But what this bind off does, is it gives you like 2 rows of knit stitches. Do you see how there's 2 rows of knit stitches? It's kind of similar to an I-cord, and it is flatter than an I-cord, but looks quite lovely. I really like it. So I wanted to show you how to do it. And using this Bravo yarn, I really enjoyed using the Bravo yarn because taking number 9 needles and knitting this scarf makes a very wide, cozy, comfortable scarf. So I thought it was a great project for the actual yarn. It was a good match. So anyway, it was really fun. And doing the Chinese Waitress Cast On and Bind Off were, I don't know, just learning a new skill. It was totally awesome. Yes, so don't forget the contest for this week as we're going along. Post comments in the comment section, and you choose whether you want sapphire or aquamarine, and we can get this out in the mail for next week. And it's lovely yarn, 100% baby alpaca yarn that is made in Peru that we have imported ourselves. So it's totally fantastic. So I wanted to sit down here and take a look at these skills and see if we can go over just 1 second to see our Chinese Waitress Cast On. And if you're wondering, why is it called the Chinese Waitress Cast On? And it is because the lady who founded it, she was in a restaurant visiting with the waitress, and the waitress showed her this cast on. So she just simply named it that. So anyway, it's a great cast on, and I thought you might enjoy learning how to do it. So here is my cast on, and let me show you. I'll just put this up on the needle just so you could see a little bit about what it looks like. It has some knit stitches on this side, And then if you flip it, it has more knit stitches. So it's totally fantastic. So when you do the cast on, it starts with the slip knot. Let's see if I can move all my goodies. I have so much stuff here. It's hard to keep it out of my way. So I have a slip knot, and I'm going to put this on my needle. Remember, when you finish your cast on, you want to remove the slip knot because it's not actually part of the cast on, or it's not supposed to be anyway. So you make an X with your crochet hook and your needle, and you, instead of wrapping it counterclockwise like we normally would, you wrap the yarn all the way around the needle and the crochet hook clockwise instead of counterclockwise. And then you just grab that strand of yarn and bring it through. Then you reset and with that loop on your hook, and you put it behind again and make another X. And then you wrap that clockwise all the way around. Okay, so it's clockwise on your needle, and you see how that crochet hook is just going to catch that strand of yarn and bring it through. And then you just simply keep resetting and bringing that around, and you'll see your cast on start to form. Now, say that I want to cast on 10 stitches, right? So I have 4, 5, 6, 7, and reset, 8, 9. Remember that tail's not going to be part of it, okay? And 10. So I have 10, okay? So let's count those up, 3, 6, 9, and 10. So what do you do with that last loop to make it look really nice? So you would go ahead and just do a chain stitch, and then take that left-hand leg of the stitch that's on your crochet hook and put it in the back. Then, see how you have that here? Then you would remove this slip knot and take it off there. I can't because I have this little, well, actually I could. I can just take that little sample off there. And then your cast on is complete, and you have 10 stitches, 3, 6, 9, and 10. Isn't that cool? And the bind off, the cast on looks beautiful. And now I wanted to show you how to do the bind off. Okay, so the first thing you want to remember when you're doing the matching bind off, if I haven't said it enough, let me say it again. When you go to bind off, use the smallest needle that you have so you don't get a flared bind off, because this one seemed like no matter how small my needle was, it wasn't quite small enough. So if you have like sock needles, that's fantastic. You could do that, right? So this, you would bring the working yarn forward and say, I'm ready to bind off. And here is my cast on edge. And I'm going to try and create a bind off edge that matches this. So you do that by purling stitches. So you would insert the needle as if to purl, but instead of this counterclockwise wrap that we always wrap, you're going to be doing a clockwise wrap. So clockwise, and then you do a regular yarn over, and then you insert your needle again. Instead of doing a counterclockwise wrap, it's a clockwise wrap. And then when you get 2 stitches on your needle, the yarn over and the stitch, you bind them off one at a time, trying to keep this whole thing as tight as you can so that it doesn't turn into a sloppy bind off. Okay, so on this stitch right here, we would create that yarn over that goes in the center, and then we're going to purl a stitch, remembering to wrap clockwise instead of counterclockwise. Now we have 3 stitches on, and we're going to bind off 2 of those and continue on all the way until you're at the very end. So yarn over, purl, clockwise instead of counterclockwise. Keep everything nice and tight. Bind off 1 stitch and the stitch to the next to it. And then bring the yarn over, insert your needle, clockwise wrap, bind off 1 and 2. Okay, and so that's what you do See how we have our bind off starting to form, and we have a knit stitch on top and the knit stitches on the side there. So you're seeing it start to form. Remembering that, keep that bind off tight because you don't want it flared on one side. The goal is that when you lay your scarf down, both sides are, exactly the same. Okay. That one kind of fell off a little bit, and you just put it right back on the needle. And if you see a strand of yarn, see how that strand of yarn got missed? I just take it off the needle and gently do it again. So yarn over, insert my needle, clockwise wrap, and then bind off 1 and bind off 2. Let's see if I can get to this last stitch here, and I'll show you how to deal with it. But I really do like this Chinese Waitress Cast On and Chinese Waitress Bind Off. And I don't know, just learning new skills is always fun. You know me, I'm always trying to find another way to do something to spice things up and make them fun. And I thought this bind off and the cast on were kind of nice. So yarn over, insert my needle, do a clockwise wrap. And I'm almost at the end here. And then we'll see. So I'm remembering to keep it as tight as I can, but not be too tight. You don't want it sucked in, but you know, within reason. This bind off seemed really super loose. Oops, I almost lost my needle. That's all I need, to have my needle fall out on the floor. That would be bad. Bad, bad, bad. Okay, yarn over. Insert needle, clockwise wrap instead of counterclockwise wrap. And you go bind off 1, bind off 2. Oops, got an extra strand of yarn on there. Let that go. And then when you get to the very last one, just pull it straight out and then cut this off, and you're ready to weave in your ends. Do you see how you have the nice little knit stitches on both sides? It's a really cool bind off. I like that. Very similar to the I-cord. And it feels really nice. I really like that Chinese Waitress bind off. I can't wait to be able to use it more often. So that was the fun that I had this week. And I really like this scarf. It was a perfect match of pattern and yarn. And it was actually a fun knit. And I slipped the edges. Do you see how I slipped the 2 edge stitches? All I did is when I got to the last 2 stitches, I slipped them with the yarn in front. And then on the next row, when I turned around, I would just knit 2. And that was my whole edge strategy. And if you see this pattern in comparison to a lot of the people who did this lovely scarf, you could see it on Ravelry. Their edges were kind of all over the place. They weren't as clean as they could be. So you can see how nice and clean these edges are. Nice and stable. Jim, do you want me to take it off so we can see better? Do you see that? Can you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really nice edges. Fun project. I like these scarves. I don't make them super long because I'm kind of short and I don't want them wrapped around and around my neck. Otherwise I get too hot. But I really enjoyed the project. So it's totally awesome. So let's look and see who the winner is for this week, right? Let's see, honey. Did you write it down for me? Let's see. Oh, Lois Erdman. Yay! Oh, and it said you wanted the Archangel. Here's Lois. This yarn is for you. All you have to do is contact us at customer service. So it's www.alpacadirect.com, customer service, right, Jim? And all we need is your shipping address, and we can get this out in the mail to you right away. I think you will really enjoy this yarn. Finito is one of my all-time favorites of Malabrigo yarns, just because the feel of it is such nice quality. I really like that yarn. So congratulations, Lois Erdman. You won some nice Finito from Malabrigo, which is hand-painted yarn. And don't forget, you guys, vote on this Bravo for next week, because we want to get this yarn in some lucky winner's hands. And I'm sure you'll enjoy that too. So you guys have a great week, and I will see you next week. And I'm going to be talking about this Tsubaki Pullover, and it's by the same designer as this scarf. And it's a sweater. And what I like about this pattern that I'm going to be talking about next week is it has these lovely cables. They're just gorgeous. And she has a way of doing her sleeves where she zips up the sleeves. And I talked about this in one of my other videos a long time ago when I was seaming Michelle Hunter's block pattern, right, Jim? I use a similar technique. And I think that this is one I want to share with you because you'll see how awesome it is. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you learned a little something, and I will see you next Tuesday.